will not take.
But you have to look at the classification level of certain things that are not devolved for reasons of national security.
Will you commit that the president will not take this jet with him out of federal inventory when he leaves office?
That's not a decision for necessarily me to make, and ultimately it will.
Pete Hegseth walked into the hearing pretending to be a Secretary of Defense. Instead, he spent the afternoon dodging basic accountability. The senator leading the line of questioning didn't let up, exposing lies about a failing war and a billion-dollar gift jet. This is the story of a man who thought he could just say no to Congress. Hit like and subscribe.
Secretary Hegseth, the American people either didn't want this war from the start or were deeply skeptical of this war because they have seen this country make the same mistake over and over again in wars in the Middle East, and that is to create either unrealistic or open-ended objectives. You said in March that the United States was, quote, on plan to defeat, destroy, and disable all of Iran's meaningful military capabilities at a pace that the world has never seen before. Obviously, as we've discussed here today, that objective has not been achieved and is not going to be achieved. Iran is more adept than even at the start of the war at hiding their capabilities or repairing after damage we have done. There's an open report that...
Classic Hegseth. The senator lays out the undeniable failure of an open-ended war with no clear exit. Hegseth's first instinct when his own side cites the damning intelligence, 30 of 33 missile sites still active, is to dismiss it entirely. I wouldn't believe all the open reports, Senator. This is not a strategy. This is a man betting his arrogant denial will outlast the hearing gavel. He is telling the committee their own intelligence professionals are wrong. The senator knew the trap was already set. Now the jaws of it close. Hegseth just walked right in.
When it comes to their missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz, 30 of 33 are still operational.
I wouldn't believe all the open reports, Senator.
But I've also heard you say in this hearing that the objectives now seem to be more limited than they were at the outset of the war, that this is about reopening the strait and this is about dismantling their nuclear capability. And the president, of course, has said himself that he thinks Iran has a right to a missile program.
And here comes the trap slamming shut. The senator catches Hegseth in a direct contradiction. The original promise to disable all military capacities versus the president's own admission that Iran has a right to a missile program. Is it no longer a war objective? The question hangs in the air. Hegseth cannot say yes because he promised total victory. He cannot say no because his own boss publicly undermined him. So he does what he always does when cornered, changes the subject. The senator doesn't let him move. He restates the question with surgical precision. This is what accountability looks like, and Hegseth has nowhere to hide.
The question is pretty simple. Is it correct that it is no longer a war objective to destroy all of their military capacities? This is what the president has said. Have our goals been simplified to reopening the strait and to getting into a negotiation over a nuclear program? Now, I don't think you have a realistic plan to do either of those things, but I think it's important for us to know what we're funding. Are the objectives much more limited today than they were when you made that statement in March?
So I think the objectives have been consistent and clear from the beginning. And I would contrast it to North Korea, where a conventional buildup was used to hide a nuclear capability that eventually evolved to a point where it couldn't be contested. And what Iran continued to do, even after Midnight Hammer, was try to build that conventional capability to dare anyone to stop them from...
Hegseth finally speaks, and the evasion gets worse. He drags North Korea into the conversation. A completely different country, a completely different conflict, all just a smokescreen because he cannot honestly answer for his own catastrophic failures in Iran. The senator's patience evaporates instantly. He interrupts to clarify the objectives have obviously shrunk. Hegseth doubles down on consistency. This is not consistency. This is a man rewriting the mission statement in real time because the original was an impossible lie. If a field commander changed objectives without telling Congress, they would face a court-martial. Prosecution and a dishonorable discharge. For Hegseth, nothing. just a podium and a chance to try again.
Pursuing nuclear weapons. So getting after their conventional capabilities, missile launchers, defense industrial base, their Navy was all part of it, ensuring they can't blackmail us into pursuing a nuclear capability. Laser focused on Iran will never have a nuclear capability. That's the promise the president has made and that he will keep in every way.
I think it's important. It is still a war objective, either through military action or through a diplomatic agreement, to destroy and disable all of Iran's meaningful military capacities, including their missile program.
As far as all, when we talked about that from the podium at the outset of this, we were talking about their defense industrial base. And if you look at the metrics of their ability to make more, that it's been overwhelmingly destroyed. Not everything, but overwhelmingly. Now, do they have missiles in underground bunkers because they're a terror state? Sure they do, and we've acknowledged that from the beginning.
Yeah,
but their capacity is less today than it's ever been
They
as a nation.
obviously have significant capacity to effectively disrupt the entirety of the Middle East and oil flows out of the Middle East.
Now Hegseth hits the peak of his absurd performance. He admits Iran's most critical targets are in underground bunkers. He admits they can effectively disrupt the entirety of the Middle East. And his conclusion? Their capacity is less today than it's ever been. This is the language of a man who gave up on victory and settled for a talking point. The war he promised to win in months is now an open-ended grind with no measurable goal except less bad. No frontline commander in history keeps their command for admitting the enemy is more capable and the mission is a stalemate. Hegseth does it from a soundproof room. The double standard is staggering, and the most shocking part of this performance hasn't even aired yet.
One more question. This is a request for supplemental funding because you don't have the funding in your base budget to do what you need to do, which makes questions about the base budget relevant. There's been a lot of attention, Mr. Secretary, on the modernization of a luxury jet that was gifted to the president by the government of Qatar. Reports suggest that maybe as much as $1 billion in your base funding, an extraordinary amount of money, has been used for an upgrade, and the plane is back in the shop for a second upgrade. As far as I can tell, never before has an administration not made public the amount of money for an upgrade or a construction contract on a presidential airplane. Obviously, we don't need or want disclose the details of that upgrade, but never before have you withheld from Congress and the public.
Exactly as you heard, the senator pivots to the second scandal, a luxury jet, gifted to the president by Qatar. Secret upgrades costing up to $1 billion, taken straight from the core military budget. The question is simple: will you disclose the price tag? Hegseth hides behind classification. The capabilities are classified. This is not national security. This is a slush fund. If the Pentagon spent $1 billion, it refused to explain to Congress. That used to be a career-ending scandal. For this administration, it is just Tuesday. The senator knows he is being snowed. So he asks the question the entire country wants answered.
The total amount of money. I think there are two really important questions here. One, will you make public the amount of money that you are spending to upgrade this plane? And two, can you commit to this Congress and this committee that the president isn't going to take this plane with him when he leaves office? The only thing more insulting to the taxpayers of spending money on a jet they don't need would be for the president to take it with him, to take it out of our military inventory when he leaves office.
Say the Air Force has done an incredible job making that a capable jet that ultimately, but its capabilities are, and
the question is the simplest possible. Will you commit that the president will not take this plane with him when he leaves office? Hegseth dodges. He praises the great job the Air Force has done. He talks about security. He refuses to say the president will keep it in the fleet. The senator pushes again. Will you make the amount public? Hegseth's non-answer. I would imagine as part of the regular budget process, that's something we would look at. Not yes, not no. A bureaucrat's answer designed to evaporate before the next news cycle. The senator doesn't let it go. He asks for a commitment a third time. This is the moment the entire exchange crystallizes into a single damning frame of contempt.
And investment are classified and shouldn't be talked about in
That's
public
not what I'm
setting,
asking.
considering
Will
the
you make
security of the
amount
president of the United States.
Will you disclose the amount of money publicly?
I would imagine as part of the regular budget process, that's something that we would look at.
And will you commit that the president will not take
But you have
this
to look at
jet?
the classification level of certain things that are not devolved for reasons of national security.
Will you commit that the president will not take this jet with him out of federal inventory when he leaves office?
That's not a decision for necessarily me to make, and ultimately, we're grateful to have it in the fleet for the Air Force to protect the President of the United States.
That's deeply
Senator
unsatisfactory.
Peters.
The senator asks the question a third time. Will you commit the president will not take this jet? Hegseth's final answer is a monument to contempt. That's not a decision for necessarily me to make. Not a decision for the Secretary of Defense. He openly admits he will not stop the president from privatizing a government asset worth hundreds of millions. The senator's closing words land like a hammer. That's a deeply unsatisfactory answer to the American public. A secretary who lies about a war and hides the price of a private jet is a pattern, not a mistake. It is institutional rot. If a soldier took a vehicle from the motor pool, they face a court-martial. Hegseth allows the president to take a jet and hides the cost. This is not a patriot. This is a caretaker for a system that treats public trust as optional. What happens when the next emergency requires real transparency, and the Pentagon has already classified every receipt? Comment where you think this jet will end up. Like, share, subscribe.